Greetings, everybody, and welcome to Esoteric Babble. Today's babbling is going to concern card 12 of the major arcana of the Tarot, the Hanged Man. Basically, this card represents two ideas, which actually can be boiled down to one idea. The overall image that we're presented with is of a person upside down, a hanged person. And that person is seeing the world upside down. The other main idea is that of an execution. Hanged is a capital punishment. Someone is sentenced to death by hanging. And in this card, we have to ask, what is it? Who is it that is being hanged? So these two ideas of inversion and execution might seem to be completely separate, but in fact, the idea of the execution flows out from that of inversion. So let's look at the inversion for a minute. And basically, I think what this card is saying, especially when we see in the Rider-Waite the halo around the hanged person. This is the spiritual aspirant. And the spiritual aspirant sees the world from an opposite point of view, or sees the world from an upside down point of view compared to most people. And if we had to give one word to why the spiritual aspirant sees the world from an inverted point of view, we could do worse than to use the concept of Maya found in ancient Indian schools of philosophy. And Maya is this idea that the world is illusion. We don't see the real reality. We're presented with this ever-changing flow of phenomena. And of course, reflexively, we have to deal with this world. We have to get out of the way of moving cars and all sorts of dangers, and we have to seek out food, and the list goes on and on. But to those who reflect, and to those who have gone before us and have attained liberation, they are pretty much unanimously agreed, no matter their tradition, that this world in which we are immersed is not the real world. And Maya is a good way to think about it, because Maya is not only an illusion, but it's sort of the word goes back to something like a magic trick. They still use that, I think, in Thai, Maya Pa. And so it's deceptive, in other words. And the hangman is representing this in a very nice way for us to understand that we spiritual aspirants have to see the world from the opposite point of view. There's a great verse in the Theragatha, which is in the Pali Canon, the Khuddaka Nikaya, and these were verses written by monks, and Buddhist monks, I should say. And this one is really nice. It says, one should settle down when others are flying up. One should fly up when others are settling down. One should remain when others are not remaining. One should not take pleasure when others are taking pleasure. That is translated by K.R. Norman. So that gives us a good example of the attitude of the monastics, of those who were on or following the Buddha's teaching. And I think there's many more examples. Shankaracharya mentions in, let me see, what's the name of that work? In the Dakshinamurti Stotram, I probably mangled the Sanskrit there. He mentions Those who know themselves as a body, life force, sense organs, intelligence, which is always moving, or nothing, are deluded. The Buddha agrees. I believe Platonists agree. The Gnostics agreed. And this is not intuitive. We naturally identify with our bodies and our minds, our physical and mental phenomena. So that is the main message, I think, overall of the hangman, is that the spiritual aspirant sees the world from an inverted point of view. Now, the idea of execution does really flow from that. What is it that is being executed, or who is it that's being executed? That is our ego. In order to see the world the way that the ancient sages and the current sages who have attained deliberation, in order to see the world like that, our ego has to be transcended. We have to ruthlessly hunt down our ego and slaughter it. And if that sounds pretty hard, I will quote the Buddha, who was asked by a divine being, having killed what, does one sleep at ease? Having killed what, does one not grieve? What's the one thing you approve of killing, O Venerable Buddha? And the Buddha says, having killed your anger, one is at ease. One sleeps at ease, and one does not grieve having killed the anger. And of course, things like our anger and our greed, hatred, delusion, they all proceed from our having an ego. The more we can lessen the ego, the more in touch with the amada padang, the deathless state, the more in touch with that deathless state we will become. And people have given that beautiful, allegorical, if you will, or symbolic or Gnostic interpretation, however you want to say it, of the crucifixion and resurrection of Jesus or the Christ, is that our physical bodies, we have to die to that, that sense that we are the body. And then we can ascend to union with the one source, with Brahman, with Nibbana, however you want to state that, or however you want to maybe not state that, which would be probably better. Lastly, I would say that Taoism is a great philosophy of inversion. Taoism really celebrates the gentle over the aggressive, non-striving over striving, and even silence over speech. Those are things that are not immediately evident to us when we are letting our ego run the show, and when we just believe that we are our bodies and minds only. And just to put a slightly finer point on this, we spiritual aspirants hang ourselves. One, in order to kill the ego, and two, in order to seek out the unchanging, the one true source, that which is beyond this veil of Maya. And in so doing, we find ourselves to see the world from this opposite point of view of most worldlings, if you will. So I hope that has given a little insight into this tarot card. It is by no means exhaustive. There are levels and levels and levels, but I do think this notion of inversion and, what would we say, killing, hanging, executing the ego, those are the main things to keep in mind. So may we all go forward and pervade this universe as fully as possible with our love and compassion, our loving kindness, our compassion, our sympathetic joy, our equanimity, and see all beings as if they were our children and not as our enemies. A heartfelt wish for the end of suffering to all sentient beings in any realm of existence anywhere.